Woke. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? This is the student master teacher, Mr. I Stay Woke, Chris Monroe, and I'm right back at you with another real estate video. Somebody said something about there was some audio issues. Can you hear me now? Are we clear now? Hopefully we got it good. Okay, sound good now. I think that's what I'm talking about. See how I fixed it over the little break there? That's how you got to do these live streams and really get good. You got to know how to maneuver this stuff. That's entrepreneurship in a nutshell. Solve the problems as they come up. Don't complain. Just come on in and do it. So I think, let's see here. You can hear me now? Good, good, good. I don't know what happened there, but they try to hate, but I ain't worried about it. Thanks, everybody. All right. So here we go. We're good. We're good. So without further ado, I want to let you all know we got a great show for you tonight. We got Mr. Victor Antonio coming in to talk about some sales and entrepreneurship. A great heavy hitter right here. Here he is. He's in the green room warming up, about to come out swinging and bucking and swinging. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Give it a like. Give it a share. Tag other people in Facebook groups and all that type of stuff. Share it out to people who want to get this information. So I want to bring in my bro, Mr. Victor Antonio. How you doing?
Good, man. What's happening? I was like, I went to your Google. I went to the Google link first, and I was waiting on the other link, man. So sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. We're going to improvise and make it work either way. You know how we do
man.
it.
Oh, we got to do it that way. I even made this beautiful sign for you. I don't know if you can see it, man. You probably can't. Yeah, man. Go full screen on this thing, man. I took some time with this thing for you.
Look at that. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Screenshot.
Yeah. You got it?
That's what I'm talking about. So for people who may not know, who is Victor Antonio and what do you do?
Oh, let me see. So family's originally from Puerto Rico. Born and raised in Chicago. I was on the northwest side, North Avenue in Ashland. We're about, a few miles away from Cabrini Green housing projects, if you've been in the area. And so, it was one of those upbringings, food stamps, government cheese, powdered milk, the whole story. Mom said, go to school, get an education, get the JOB. So I did. Got an engineering degree, an MBA, went to school, became a started out as an engineer when I graduated from college. Didn't like that, wasn't making enough money. Got into sales, started making a lot of money. Then May 9th, 2001, fast forward in my life, I decided to do my own thing, man. And here I am. So I traveled around the world before COVID. And I enjoy it, man. I love sales. I think, any person that learns how to sell will always have a job, will always make money.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of people kind of run away from sales. They're like, oh, somebody trying to sell me something, or I don't like sales. I'm scared of sales. What is it that gravitated you over to becoming an expert sales, master sales trainer?
Do I need to say anything else to you, man? Some money. We were broke. Didn't I just tell you, Chris, we were broke, man?
So you had to learn how to sell, huh?
Well, it was interesting, man. It's a true story. So I started out as an engineer, and I was working for a wireless company. I was designing these wireless systems. And I always tell this story because it's a true story. So I'm designing these wireless systems, right? I remember we're working on the Iowa State Power and Gas, big wireless network. I designed it, and I was working with a sales guy. His name was Ken, right? And so we've been working on this project like tirelessly. I was designing the whole thing by myself, right? It was my first big project. And to make a long story short, like 3 to 6 months later, we won the deal, Chris. We won the deal. It's like a $5 million deal, right? And I'm like, yeah, my first deal as a young engineer, right? Yeah, my first deal. And Ken's like, Victor, dude, I'm taking you out to lunch, man. I'm like, my man, right? Take me out to lunch, right? And so I'm going to make that guy, or, I'm going to make him take me out to an expensive place. And where do you want to go? I said, a steakhouse, man. A big, nice, juicy steakhouse, man. Because I want to go in there and I want to order from the left side of the menu. Don't even want to look at the right, if you know what I mean, because I don't care. He's paying, right? And so sure enough, I remember we went out to lunch, had a big old whatever steak. I had a beer during, midday. I didn't care. We were celebrating, right? Get back to the office about 2:00, Chris. I'm happy, man. I'm full. Stomach is belly's full. I'm happy. Ken, my sales guy, just dropped some money on me. I know he dropped at least half a C note on me. I'm good, right? So I get to the office. I'm like, oh, feeling good. And then there's always that one person in the office brings you back down to earth. His name was Roy. I walk in. Roy's one of those old engineers. He said, Victor, what you so happy about? I said, man, dude, my first system, we just won this deal. It's $5 million. Ken, the sales guy, just took me out to lunch, man. Bought me a nice lunch, man. Got me a steak, got me a beer. I'm happy. He said, Victor, let me ask you a question. Now, Chris, let me pause the story here. When somebody says, let me ask you a question, I assure you it's not going to go your way, right? So he goes, let me ask you a question. I said, what? He says, so you won that deal. I said, how big was the deal? I said, $5 million, right? He said, did Ken take you out? I said, yes, he did. Bought a steak, bought a beer, and I'm good. He says, how much do you think he spent on you? I said, man, I proudly said, he spent at least $50 on me. He said, last question, Vic, how much money do you think he made on commissions off of your system? And I go, I don't know. Never thought, didn't go there with my brain. He goes, well, based on my calculation, first commission check should be about $50,000. Hope you enjoyed your $50 steak. He walks away. And that was like the first moment I realized, wait a minute. And so that kind of sowed the seed. And then what happened was I started traveling into Latin America, all throughout Latin America. And so I was traveling with this Spanish guy. His name was Jose Santana. He was teaching me the ropes as we traveled throughout Latin America. And then an opportunity opened up where, hey, we need a technical guy who speaks Spanish, willing to go into sales. What do you think, Vic? And I'm like, let's do this. Boom, I was in, man. Sorry for the long story. There it is.
You're good. We like good stories like that because that gives, people a full context and let you know, what's really going on. So real life situations. You say if he made $5 million, or if it was a $5 million deal and I got $50, I feel like I got a shortcut there. You didn't even realize until somebody's brought you to it.
And at that point, I realized, I love sales. Everybody should love sales. The thing is, look, we're all in sales. Come on, we're all in sales. You know what I mean? And so people don't like the word sales because it has a negative connotation, right? They have that Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, Arthur Miller, death of a salesman type approach. ABC, always be closing, that you're pressuring people. But if you just replace the word selling with sharing, I think you have a better mindset, because what happens is when you have something of value, you want to share that with people. Why don't you just share? I'm not asking you to sell. I'm asking you to share. Why don't you just do that?
Let me share this package with you that costs $5 million.
Yeah, let me share this with you. Because the thing is, see, by the way, what is salespeople? I always use the phrase, you probably heard me use this phrase before, we're value merchants. We bring value. We show up with value. Now, we give value and we expect value in return. That's a value for value exchange. That's true capitalism. And so when I'm trying to sell you a product, I'm not just trying to sell you a product because I want you to buy it. I know it can help you. If I'm in real estate, I'm a real estate agent. I'm going to sell you a house because I know this is the neighborhood you want to be in. This is the neighborhood you want to raise your kids in, man. This is where you want to be. This is a long-term thing. I'm trying to give you value, and it's okay if I have a little value in return. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So it's very important to make sure we convey the message over to that person we're trying to sell or close, the value add to them, right?
We're not selling. I'm just sharing. I'm sharing value. You want to look at the value? There it is. I'm putting it on the table. The thing is, a lot has changed. Chris, we know that, to me, sales will always be known as pre-internet and post-internet. Pre-internet, it was always that ABC, high pressure, always be closing because the consumer didn't have a lot of information. The reality is, fast forward, you got the internet today. On average, people go online and look at 10 sources of information before deciding which way to go, right? Or before reaching out to a salesperson. So you can't really pressure buyers into buying today. That's a bad way to do it. What you can do is present your value. And I think if you just shift that mindset, you'll sell, man.
Most definitely. So when you're trying to figure out how you're going to add value to someone, what are some ways that you can kind of pull that out of a person that may not be willing to share that?
It depends on the situation. So, for example, I sell sales training, right? And so I always get the pushback, man, Victor, that's more than I expected to pay. That's more than I expected to pay. I'm like, yeah, of course it's more than you expected to pay. So lesson number one, never try to block an objection, just lean into that objection. Here's what I mean. Of course I'm more expensive. There's a reason. Let me explain. See how I just leaned into that? Of course I am, right? I don't try to, remember Bruce Lee? Remember that guy? Remember that guy? Bruce Lee said, never try to stop a fist. Like somebody throws a fist at you, never try to stop. He goes, that's trying to stop. It's too much energy, right? He said, when the fist is coming at you, all you just do is just guide it away. Like that, just guide it away. Less energy. Like, let it pass by you and just look at it go by. When somebody comes at you and they say, that's more than I expected to pay, I do this. Yeah, I know. Let me explain why, right? Right now is not a good time. I understand. But let me show you why right now might be a good time. That's all it is. The thing is, we don't have to have that, that weight on us. So when I'm talking about value, I do a lot of sales training. And so people always freak out when I charge a lot of money because I charge a lot of money. And so they always say to me, Victor, I said, it's more than I expected to pay. I'll give you an example. Let's make it tangible. If you want a full day workshop with Victor Antonio, I typically charge $20,000, right?
That's all?
That's all, man. I'm a cheap dude, man. So $20,000. There's always upsell on the backside. Just remember that.
Hey, I'm going to say that's the entry level. Wait a minute.
But I've had companies say, Victor, that's more than I expected to pay. I said, really? I said, let me show you why it's not expensive. And they're like, well, tell me why it's not expensive. I said, well, what's your average sales, right? And he'll tell me, I don't know, on average, we sell a $2,000 product, right? I said, what's your average close rate? He says 40%, right? So that means out of every 10 deals, you close 4. Is that what you're telling me? He says, absolutely. So you lose 6. You don't close 6. 6 times 2,000, that's 12,000. So if you're losing that per week, I'd say 12,000 times 4, run the number, that's 48,000. How many salespeople do you have? 10. That's You got that 48,000. That's $500,000 that you're losing every month. Please don't tell me I'm too expensive. You know what's expensive? When you don't train people. Here's the contract. I've done this whole thing. I've had people say, I have one customer say to me, he said, Victor, he says, is there any way you can give me a lower price? I said, no. I said, can I explain why? He said, why? He says, I'm there to teach your salespeople not to give away discounts. Why would I give you a discount? Wouldn't that undermine my credibility? He literally said, send me the contract.
Dang, that was a cold-blooded close right there.
Right. Send the contract. I'm like, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm not trying to sell them. I'm pointing out a reality. You're telling me you want me to train your people not to give away discounts because I hate discounting. I believe that Matt Cannon said it best. Discounting is the ignorant tax you pay when you don't know the value of your product or service. Let me say that again. Matt Cannon. Giving a discount is the ignorant tax you pay for not knowing the value of your product or service. In other words, you're not positioning correctly. And so there's ways to kind of deal with discounting. People always ask me, Victor, are you saying that you never gave a discount? Of course I did, but I always ask for something in return. So there's a way of doing it.
Right. Because I know a lot of beginning entrepreneurs, whether they're doing real estate or any type of sales and business at all, they're always like, how do I get to be the cheapest? And I'm like, no, don't try to be the cheapest. Try to be the best and give, good value and good service. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. The thing is, I think the cheapest buyers are the worst buyers, are the worst clients you can have. I think they're the worst. These are the people who ask me for a discount all the time are the worst. I just want to get rid of them. I'm almost like, here's your money back. I don't want it, right? Because in the end, they wind up costing you more. The thing is, when you know who you're selling to, like, I've had people say, Victor, that's too expensive. I can't afford it. I get that. I can recommend somebody cheaper. He says, no, but I want you. I said, you don't understand. You're not for me. And they get really mad at me. But I'm trying to be honest. I'm saying, look, either you up your game because I'm not lowering mine. It's just a reality, right? And so when I train salespeople, I said, who's your target market? As Jeff Kozer calls it, he says, who's your zebra? I love that phrase. Who's your zebra? And basically, a zebra has specific stripes, right? That's your zebra. That's who you sell to. If it has kind of, if they're all vertical stripes, that's my zebra. It's got horizontal stripes. That's not my zebra. That's not who I want to sell to. And when I talk to entrepreneurs, I was asking the question, who do you sell to? Who's your ideal client profile, right? Your ICP, your ideal client profile, your zebra. They're like, Victor, man, I got a product that, I can sell to anybody. I'm like, you're dead in the water. Dude, you're dead in the water right there. But if you tell me, Victor, let me tell you who I'm looking for. Specifically, I'm looking for a dual income family, high income above $250,000 within this zip code that's been living in a house for at least 5 years, has 2 kids between the ages of 5 and 10. That's what I'm looking for. They have a pool, great. If they drive a luxury car like a BMW Lexus, that's my zebra. That's what I'm looking for. I'm like, all right, he understands the zebra. He knows. That's who you market to. You can't market to everybody because once you start marketing to everybody, you're really marketing to nobody. You're just shooting and hoping something hits. And we tend to attract these people who simply don't have the resources for what we're having to offer.
Right. Yeah, because most of the people that kind of follow this channel, they do wholesaling, real estate wholesaling and things like that, where they're targeting people that may be going through some problems, divorce, bankruptcy, some type of imminent threat or something where they're about to lose the house or they need to sell, not just want to sell, they need to sell. And so we have to come, present them with some type of options to say, we can get you some type of money for it versus just losing it to the bank or something to that type of scenario. When it comes to those types of things, I guess you say identify to make sure we're marketing to those people first. And then what are we doing specifically, or not really specifically, but in general, to actually show them that we are adding value to them?
So did you ever see my show Life or Debt on Spike TV?
No, I didn't.
Did you know I had a television show on cable TV for a whole season, man?
I did. I saw it when I was doing a little research on you. Because I actually found out about you on Grant Cardone, 10F.
Oh, yeah, man. 10X, man. 10X. Grant's a good dude, man. I have my sales velocity platform with, tied to his. So it's pretty cool, man. They've been good to me. And so so I have a show on Spike TV. You can watch it on Hulu or Amazon. That's not a pitch because I don't get a commission. So I'm just letting you know. But the show is a quick recap. Is that we did like 11 or 12 episodes and I spend a whole week with the family. And so the first day I go in there, I do an assessment. and I'm going to your point here, Chris, we do an assessment, we figure out how they got into the financial hole, right? Then I make them feel the pain of that financial hole, like make them feel that, make it feel right here so it hurts. And then I give them a blueprint to kind of come out of it, right? And then I come back in 90 days to see how they're doing. And I give them all the resources. I give them software. If you need a lawyer, I got a lawyer. You need a foreclosure lawyer, I got that too. Your business is going, I got a marketing person just for you. I got friends type of thing. And so it was interesting to work with these families and see, the different stress situations they're under. And so if you're in a business where you have to deal with folks in this arena, right, there's still an ideal client profile, I think, right? There's certain people you just simply can't sell to, right? Is they're too far gone, they're too far in debt, it's not going to work. And so I'll just say that there's got to be a cutoff somewhere where you say, you know what, this is what I'm looking for. What's the minimum? In business as entrepreneurs, we develop a product, and we don't try to develop the product with all the bells and whistles. We call it a minimum viable product, an MVP, right? The minimum viable product, right? So my question would be, if I'm training real estate agents in this business, I said, what's your minimum viable client? Like, what's the minimum that they have to have? What are certain, criteria that they have to meet in order for them to probably say yes to the deal? Does that make sense, or am I just talking out loud?
No. That makes perfect sense. Typically, for as wholesaling real estate and things like that, they're looking for somebody with some type of equity, because that's where we're going to make some money on the middle of that.
So let me push you. Let me interview. Like, I'm trying to help you, but even though you know your business better than I do. So, and I say, well, what's the minimum equity that you're looking for?
Well, we don't really have a minimum that we want to go for, but we just want to provide as much possible.
Yeah. What's ideal? Come on, give it to me. What's like, I'm pushing you here a little bit. Like,
we want to make as much as possible, but
Mm-hmm. But I mean, when you're looking at a specific client, right? You're going after certain people. What are some of the things you look for?
We're looking for imminent threat. So say it's a foreclosure pending in the next 30 days. It's going to be auctioned off September 30th.
So foreclosure within 30 days, right? That's that's the criteria number one. It could be also what you were going to say. Foreclosure, you were going to say also what?
They want out of the house. They want to move. They're motivated to move.
Okay, so they're motivated to move, right? So, and then what else is there? Can we give me one more?
Minimum equity, 30%.
That's what I'm talking about. That's all I'm talking about. See, once you know what you're looking for, that's your zebra. That's all I'm saying. That's your zebra. You know your zebra. Right. So if you highlight that, you go, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm aiming for. So when I'm talking to clients, now we can put a band on that. By a band, I mean, all right, maybe it's not 30, maybe they're 25, right? We might be able to do that, but my ideal is 30. I get that, right? There's always a range you can work with, but by identifying who you want, you know who you're going to target, who you want to sell to, and your pitch. Here's the key part, Chris. When you know who you're selling to, you know who your zebra is. Your pitch becomes so clear after a while because you know who you're selling to, man, and it becomes effortless. But when you try to create a message that hits everybody, it just doesn't work, and I think people don't understand that.
Yeah, because I would say 90%, 95% of people just listed with the real estate agent, but sometimes the house needs too many repairs, or they may be embarrassed because they're a hoarder and they got too much stuff in their house. They don't want people coming through looking at it. So they come to an investor or somebody like me that will come in and just buy the house for cash and be done with it.
Right.
So it's sales, but it's kind of reversed.
Yeah, no, I love that. But see, the thing is, you can have more than one persona, one zebra, right? So you can have your
a giraffe. I can't see it in the background.
Well, okay, you go with a giraffe. You could, but the thing is, you can have, like, typically the average salesperson has about 3 ideal clients. They'll call them the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1s are like, they fit just beautifully right there. Those are the people that are going to be, that's the 80-20 rule. If I can find these 80% of the time, I'm going to close those deals. Then the second level would be these type of clients. It's always a 50-50 if I'm going to get that deal. Then there's the third level. You go, these, if I got nothing better to do, I'll work with those. And so I think if you're selling and you can develop that type of criteria, I think it'll help you sell more effectively. And by the way, 3 different clients, 3 different marketing messages, right? 3 different.
Break that down within the business already before we even come across these people.
Oh, absolutely. So you know what to say, you know how to talk to them, because the thing is, a person, for example, who's motivated to get out there because whatever they're facing foreclosure has one level of motivation, right? But if you're a hoarder, you don't want people coming in your house, you may have different, that might be a personal motivation. Like, I'm too embarrassed to show people my house. I trust Chris. So that's different motivation. So now you would talk to them differently. You probably do, right? And so it's because you've adjusted your pitch to those clients.
In fact, we specialize in people in your situation.
Yeah, there you go, right? And you know that because you've talked to enough people where, maybe you can't articulate that, but that's what you do all the time. You know
Right.
what I mean? We adjust the pitch depending on who we're talking to. But now imagine that you like consciously formalize that. Do you know what I mean? That like if I, and a bunch of people got in a room and said, all right, now zebra number one looks like this. Here's how you do that pitch. And if you do that pitch this way, it's going to close, right? Zebra number two looks like this, but let's write this stuff down. That's the problem. A lot of people don't write it down. Like literally take the time to articulate what they're looking for and what they need to say. Imagine if you're able to script that whole thing out, Chris, man. It'd be amazing, man. It would be amazing how much your close rate would just go up.
And so that should actually be written down so that other salespeople within the organization can use those same strategies, right?
Well, think about it. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Because what happens is there's something about you have it in your head. All right, Chris, let's go back. Let's go back to when we were younger, man. Are you married, Chris?
No.
Okay, so you're probably still, you know how you have that thing in your head, you see a lady, you want to approach her, right? And maybe you're thinking about it, And up here, the script sounds beautiful, right? She's going to say this, you're going to say that. She's going to say that, you're going to say that. But what happens? You go over there and it never goes that way. It just never, never goes that way. Never goes that way. And so what I've learned, I never used to like scripts until I started working with a company years ago and they use scripts. And by the way, when I say a script, I don't mean like you sound like a robot. I'm not talking that. I'm saying you learn the script and then you let it come through you. That makes sense? You know that there's certain things you have to say. There's certain things you have to say and certain times you have to say it, right? Or at a certain point in the conversation. And what I've learned is that when you can get your pitch down like that, writing it down, outlining the whole thing, I'm telling you, your anxiety goes down when you're talking. And you're not guessing anymore. But to your point, which is an excellent point, that when you can actually document this, write it down, and then when you want to scale your business, hire other people, what do? Here's the script. Follow the script. If it's zebra one, use that one. Zebra two, use that one. Zebra three, you get the idea. So yeah, absolutely. Use scripts.
So 3 tiers. Okay, I'm taking notes over here too. See, everybody think I just be on here talking and talking. Say, wait a minute, we're gonna pull some jewels out of this. Hopefully you all are watching as well. If y'all have any questions about anything we're talking about here, drop it in the comments. We'll try to get it before we wrap up this thing here.
Give me your toughest questions, man. I'm ready for you.
Say toughest questions. All right, you know it because they come up with. Matter of fact, I think we got one already right here. Daniel wants to know, so Victor, should we focus on tier 1 once it's perfect for us, focus on tier 2 and so forth?
I think so. I think what you can start doing, Daniel, is you can at least begin to outline 2 and 3, right? So let's say you and I, Daniel, are sitting together in the room, right? I'm going to ask you, all right, Daniel, if I'm talking to a tier 1, first of all, what does that tier 1 look like? You're going to say, Victor, it looks like this, has these criteria, right? And I said, all right, so now let's talk about what the pitch is. When we call them on the phone, what do we say? What are 2 or 3 things they're going to want to hear to kind of nibble, right? And then what are we going to do? We're going to set up a meeting one-on-one. I'm going to go over to the house, going to have the conversation. In that conversation, what are 3 things we want to get across? And at the end, what do I want them to know? What do I want them to feel? And what do I want them to do, right? And then you and I again said, all right, now let's look at 2. What does 2 look like? You say, Victor, kind of looks like this. All right, same thing. Here's kind of what we have to say, so forth and so on. And when we talk to them at their place, here's what we're going to have to say. Here's what we want them to learn, feel, and do, right? So think about this, that if you have a 2-step sales process, the first one is reaching out, right? Because that's the first one, probably reaching out and contacting them and getting the meeting. That's the first close you got to do. So what does that pitch look like? What does that pitch sound like? And then once we're there, what does that pitch sound like? And I use pitch not so much in the, hey, not that. I mean, what do they need to hear to feel comfortable to work with you? That's what I mean. And so I would outline my 3 zebras if I can. If you only have 2, that's cool. But then outline them both and then ask yourself, what do I need to say to these people to convince them? These people, let's call them the hoarders, for example, tier 2, making stuff up. What do they want to hear? What's going to make them feel comfortable working with me? And those are the things I would walk through. Great question, by the way.
Yeah, so it's basically, okay, we got
Short answer, I'd run them in parallel, man. That's the short answer, Daniel.
Run them in parallel and make it work. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up, give it a like, give it a share. When it comes to building rapport with people, what are some strategies or some tips that you know that you have in the toolbox to help people build rapport with others?
I think it's always interesting that, you have to almost, you hear the word mirroring a lot, but when you're on the phone, it's hard to mirror. So what I've realized is that I try to tune into velocity and words that people use. So velocities, for example, I always joke when I lived in Miami, people talk real fast, but when I moved to Georgia, things began to slow down quite a bit. So did I, right? And so I learned to kind of just sync up with people. And so that's the first one. If you can match their velocity and tone. And some people are very direct. I mean, if you can just get the profile right away. So let me slow down because I want to make sure you get this. You often hear the word mirroring, but that's almost like, kind of mimicking body language. But again, it's over the phone. You want to just try to get the voice and the intonation right. And again, people speak at a certain velocity. Try to understand what that velocity is. They'll use certain phrases that maybe you don't use. So what I tend to do is copy their phrases, right? And I also tend to define what I'm saying because too often we get used to, let's say, using acronyms, right? You'll use something like, what we can use a DSL-5 on that thing and bring it down to an APR that's 9 point, whatever it is, right? And you're like, I don't know what that is. And so breaking down the language for people is also important. So if I can match velocity, right? The second thing is I want to make sure I'm speaking plainly and simple, right? And again, you'll know if they know how to, they always say eye level is bi level. Eye level is bi level. What does that mean? If you're talking to somebody who sounds like they just know the basics, then you speak at the basics. But if you're talking to an advanced buyer, you move up very quickly. But the biggest thing I think you have to keep in mind is you got to hit the empathy button, man. And you can't teach this. You just have to just empathize with people. They're struggling, man. They need help. You know what I mean? And if you can come across like that, when I'm talking to somebody and I'm trying to empathize, I really listen. I tell my brain to shut up because my brain just wants to talk, right? That's how I am, ADHD bad, right? And so what I realize is that if I can just sympathize, slow down, give it a pause, right? And when I'm about to drop something heavy, I drop it heavy. But then when I lighten it up, I just said, look, this is kind of how it works. But it's not a big deal. But here's the one thing I want you to keep in mind. You see that? That's vocal variety right there. And that's what you have to practice. And it's almost like you have to get good at that. Your voice is one hell of a sales instrument. And the majority of people simply don't know how to use it.
That's called, what is it? Something linguistics or something like that? What is it called?
Well, they have, there's neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, right? And NLP is more about, phraseology and how you position wording to kind of frame things or anchor things, so that's different. I think vocal variety is really using for example, when you hear, let's say, like a Martin Luther King speak, right? Have you ever noticed that when he talks, there's this resonant frequency in his voice? And you hear it in some preachers, right? There's like this, I don't know what it is, but it's just like you're in. Like I've shared the stage with Les Brown a couple of times. He has that resonant frequency. You're like, I don't know what you just, he could read ingredients to me. And I'd be like, damn, I'm in. Let me cook this cake, right? Because there's something. And so, some people are gifted with that. Others like us have to work at that. But I'm not saying you have to sound like that. What I'm saying is that voice is power. But remember, you got power, but you also have the power of the pause, that silence that you don't have to fill.
Wow. Now that's deep. So we need to find our voice, basically.
Yeah. And you got to be comfortable with that. When the person's telling you something, sometimes they're telling you something and you don't know how to act. And you say something because you just feel like you need to fill the air. It's the wrong time to do it. If somebody's just bleeding all over the phone, so to speak, telling you this is what we're going through, you got to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And that's what people want. That's the empathy piece. I'm not saying fake it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying really listen. Now, if I can match velocity, to summarize, right? I can speak at your level and I'm really like listening to you, having a conversation. Because I want to be able to sell you my services. You know that, I know that. But let's figure out if this is even a good match. And I think if you take it that approach, man, it's like you feel better about yourself when you go home. Okay. And then at the end, I just said, look, if you want to work with me, I would love to work with you. If not, that's fine also. Right? And that's
I've heard that said before too, let them know it's okay to tell me no, just to let them know right up front.
Yeah, it's okay to tell me no. I said, here's what I can do for you. Here's where I can help you. If you find value in that, let's do this. If not, that's fine. If you don't like, that's fine. That's fine. Because in my mind, if I got a bunch of other people waiting to see me, I don't have a problem. See, the problem is a lot of people are scared to lose that one buyer because they don't have anybody else. They don't have a sales problem. They have a prospecting problem. Big difference, right? So sales problem is I can't close. A prospecting problem is I can't get prospects, right? Think about how your mindset shifts. If I only had 2 people lined up waiting to see me, only 2 potential customers in my pipeline, how would I sell? I would say you sell scared because you
Yeah.
better close 1 of 2 at least, right? Now, if you had 100 people waiting for you to talk to you, how would you sell? All right, people with money, zebras, ones, over here. People who are broke, over there. Please go home, right? Totally different mindset. So I tell people sometimes it's not a sales problem. You just have a prospecting problem. You don't have enough customers in your pipeline.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. We definitely got to be talking to a lot of people because most won't do the deal with you.
Yeah.
It's reality.
That's all it is. It is. It is. I think that's where, again, I think if you get over this mental hump that you're not selling, that you're actually helping people. You got to keep in mind that in your business, and again, I'm not pretending to know your business clearly, but I got to believe that you're helping people out of a bad situation, right? You're trying to help them find a way out. Noble cause, right? And so you're helping them to get out of that. Maybe they don't know how to do it. That's why they come to you. And if they come into you, that's you approach it like that. I'm trying to help you. And then, I know I got to make a little money too. I'm not going to do something for free. Nobody does anything for free.
Right.
I've had people say, well, Victor, I said, the only reason you like selling to me is because you make a commission. I said, wait a minute. I said, first of all, before I make a commission, I sell you a product or a service that's going to help you make money, right? And then in return, I'll make money. But let me ask you a question. I said, when you work, do you work for free? And what do you think I would say? No. I said, this is work. I said, so why would you expect me to do something for free? Of course not. But see, I lean into that objection. Again, I don't run from it. I head on. Of course I do. Are you trying to make money? Yes. Any questions? Yeah, but I want to help you first. If I can help you, then I'll feel good about taking the money. If I can't help you, I don't want your money. What a mindset, right? What a mindset.
Definitely. You got to confront the enemy. You can't duck and dodge and say, I don't really want to talk about it. Confront all the issues because if not, they're ever going to be closed. They're still going to have that one problem we never solved.
I would always just change that one word. They're not the enemy. These are people who need help. When I'm talking to a large corporation, it could be, I don't know, Fortune 100 corporation, I don't know, $2 billion, it doesn't matter. There's a project manager, a product manager who's having problems. Their salespeople can't sell the product they just developed. It doesn't change. So whether I'm selling somebody who's going through some financial difficulty, might get foreclosed on, what are they trying to figure out? How do I get out of this with the minimum amount of damage? That's what they're thinking about, right? They're figuring out, how do I get out of there with the minimum amount of damage, right? And then they're saying, I don't know what to do. Bam, you show up. Here's one solution we offer. Let me share it with you. And I'm just trying to help you, man. That's all it is. I didn't get you in that financial hole. You did, right? If I can be hard for a second, that's how I was on the show. I was really hard on the show. But I'm like, but I was always very honest. I was like, look, I didn't get you in the hole. I said, now you want to get out of the hole the next day. No, it took you 3 years to get in that hole. It's going to take you 3 more years to get out. And the thing is, they really appreciate it when I just went right at them. They go, yeah, because I cared. I truly did. That's what made me successful on the show. I truly did care. And I think if you're selling into this market, you should truly care about the people you're working with. And I think you won't even have to sell. You just have to be you.
True.
Yeah.
That's true right there. Now, I know I've heard the saying that a confused mind says no. So when we're talking to these people, talking to these prospects, what is your thought on presenting multiple options or multiple solutions to their problem, or just giving them one and kind of breaking it down separately like that? What are your thoughts on that?
So 2 things. A confused mind never says no. A confused mind says, I don't know. Big difference, right? No is like, no, I don't want it. I don't know is like, you know what? There's something called buyer's. There's buyer's remorse and buyer's regret. Let's define these two. Buyer's remorse is when a salesperson forces you to buy something, pressures you to buy something, and then you like, why did I buy this? I didn't need to buy this. That's buyer's remorse. I hate Chris for selling me this, right? That's buyer's remorse. Then buyer's regret is when you're confused, as you've pointed out, right? You're confused and you go, you know what? I don't want to make any decisions because I'm not sure. And I might regret any decision I make. Therefore, I'm not going to make any decision. They're not saying no, they're just confused. And your biggest competition in the market today is not your competitor. I remind people this all the time. Your biggest competitor is not your competitor. Your biggest competitor is the status quo, make no decision. That's who your biggest competitor is. Because the majority of people, look, your competitor is taking about 20% of your business, more or less 20% of your business. But 40 to 60% of the people are not buying because they don't know, they're not sure. This is where you come in. And so how do we unconfuse the mind, right? How do we unconfuse the mind? I'm reminded of that, the study that was done, and it was in the book by Robert Cialdini called Influence. Great book. Recommended, highly recommended. And it was a jelly study, jams, right? One day they had 6 flavors and they wanted to see how many people would approach the table and buy. The next day they had 24 flavors. They wanted to see how many people would approach and buy. And what they found out is which one sold more? The one with only 6 options. Why? Because when you got 24 options, people get confused. Only 3% bought. When there were 6 options, 30% bought. So what is our job as salespeople? Is that we know that the customer has choices, right? Maybe limited choices, but it could be 3, 4, 5 choices. Our job as a salesperson is to help them clear the field, whittle it down to 2, maybe 3 first, and then 2, and then help them nudge them over the line to pick 1. That's our job. How do we funnel them down through the process, the options, to get to the one they need to make? That's what we need to do as salespeople. And that's why today I sincerely believe that you, the salesperson, are the differentiator. You're the differentiator because products and services are almost the same. Right now you have competitors, right? But you're almost the same.
Everywhere. Everybody's in the business now.
Everybody's in the business. So your competitor is not your competitor. Your competitor is your pitch, how you present and how you're able to kind of funnel them and help them make a buying decision. What people want from you as a salesperson is they need help making a buying decision. That's why what you just said is so important, Chris, because they're confused. There's so many options in the market. I don't know what to do. And they want a guy like Chris to come up and say, let me walk you through it. It's not that hard. Eye level is buy level, right? I'm going at your velocity. Let me break it down. It's not that difficult to understand. Look, it's just this. You put it here. They move it here. They do that. That's all it is. And now the empathy piece comes in, right? You're like, look, I know this is a tough decision because in your mind, this is what you're thinking. They're going, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking, Chris. And you're probably wondering, what do I do this? Well, let me walk you through some options. That's the conversation they're looking for. Right there. That's the conversation.
Conversations is key. Quality conversations. I agree with that. So when you're speaking to these people, you've identified some of their pain points and some of their issues and some of the things. When do you know it's time to go ahead and go for the close? When is it time to go for the kill? Or do you?
We don't do that. See, it's his language, man. Chris's language, brother. It's language, man. They're not the enemy, and we don't kill. We don't do that. There's no enemies. We don't kill, Chris. I'm just messing with you.
I got you.
but it's almost like the thing is, when I did the show, Chris, what was cool about the show was that there's certain lines I had to deliver, right? Like, for example, at the end of, let's say, day 1, the producer says, all right, Victor, go in there and da-da-da-da-da. And then he said, I need you to end with something strong that's going to be impactful, right? And he would use this phrase, stick the landing. You ever see those people on a balance beam? They do the whole gymnastic thing. They jump off the beam, and then they have to stick the landing, right? Without taking a step forward. And so that's what he meant. He goes, Victor, when you get in there, hit that, stick the landing, right? And so for salespeople, always says, you got to stick the landing. So let's go back to the original question. I think Daniel asked a question. Daniel asked a question about, the conversations and the scripts, right? The thing is, I need to know what I want, right? I always tell people, okay, how do you ask for it? I always tell people, how do you ask for it? And you just see how people choke, Chris. Like, what do you mean? How do you ask for the order? At the end of the conversation, what do you say? And just practice that. So for me, I got a basic line. Based on what I've shown you, is there any reason we shouldn't move forward? That's my line. See, the thing is, remember, let's go back to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee said, I'm not afraid of a man who knows 10,000 kicks. I'm afraid of the man who knows 1 kick and he's practiced it 10,000 times, right? So you don't need 101 closes. You don't. You just need 1 good one based on what I've just shown you. based on the options I laid out, is there any reason we shouldn't go ahead and move forward with that option? See, that's me sticking the landing. I know that somewhere in the conversation, that's my line.
So we allow them to come back to us and say, well, what about this part over here, or whatever their objection is at that point.
Right. The thing is, I have a book called Response Block Selling. Response block selling is all about blocking objections. So by the way, just personal promotion. You should check out my Sales Velocity Academy. I know you know about this, Chris, but just for your audience, the Sales Velocity Academy, go to salesvelocityacademy.com. One of the best programs I have in there. There's like 50 courses or 500 videos in the library. And one is called Blocking Objections, Response Block Selling. I am just telling you, if you just learned how to block objections, you would reduce your sales resistance and you close deals more effectively without pushing. Just look it up. That's all I'm asking you. So here's kind of the essence of it. And I wrote a book to go with it. I think there's like 22 different scripts to block 22 of the most popular objections. But when you're going to talk to a client. So let me use you as an example, Chris. Let's say you and I are in a consulting thing here, right? You say, Victor, need your help. Right? I said, I need to take it to the next level. I said, I need my close rates at 50, 60, whatever it is. I need to take it to 90, whatever it is. And then I'll say, Chris, I said, what are the typical objections that you get in your sales process? When you're talking to the clients, what's the typical objection that you're getting?
Let me think about it.
Boom. Let me think about it. Right? So that's one. What else you got?
Well, let me see if I can get a better offer.
Let me see if I can get a better offer. Heard that one too. Right? And then what would be the third one? Give me another one.
Well, the third one could be they just go ghost altogether and disappear and don't say anything.
And by the way, when they go ghost, that means you did something wrong in the conversation. You didn't uncover something, or you just didn't really dig into their real problems and they're not comfortable with you, right? And we can push that to the side for now. But when somebody says, let me think about it, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'll put you on the spot. I said, I'll say to you, Chris, let me think about it. What do you say to me?
Well, is there any? I would ask them other questions, like, is there anything else that I didn't explain or that you need to know about the situation or how the process would work?
Nope, you explained it. I understood it. I just need to think about it.
Well, what is it that you need to think about?
I just need time. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to think about. So that's why I just need to think about it.
Oh, I can definitely understand that. Is there anybody else that's going to be helping you make this decision as well?
No, it'll probably just be. I'm single. It'll probably be me. I don't have a mom, so I just need to think about it.
Okay. So when you think about it, I'm gonna keep going. I wouldn't even give up that quick.
But the thing is, the customer, you can only ask the customer 3 or 4 questions before they get irritated with you, right? And then you feel uncomfortable, right?
Right.
But what if you did something like this? Customer says, let me think about it. Chris, you say that to me. I said, Chris, honest, when somebody tells me they have to think about it, it's either because they're not interested or they're interested but not sure. Which one is it? Now, notice what I just asked you to do. I asked you to make a decision now. I gave you a choice. Chris, when somebody tells me that they're not they need to think about it, it's usually because they're not interested. This is what I do with my hands all the time. Just watch it. Not interested, or they're interested, but they just need to think about it. Which one is it? So now you have to make a choice. You have to tell me I'm not interested, or I'm interested, but I need to think about it. Let's go with both answers, right? If they say I'm not interested, Victor, at that point, I stop selling. And then I say, Chris, I said, the conversation is here about selling you, but can I ask you a personal question? I'm not going to try to sell you. You've just told me you're not interested. I always tell my customers, when somebody tells me they're not interested, I stop. So I am stopping. But can I ask you a question that maybe will help me with other clients? Can I ask you why you're not interested? I'm not trying to sell you. I just want to understand. And if you built that confidence, says, Victor, I said, and he may say something that you didn't even think about, but you respect the fact, I appreciate the feedback. And then I take that information, I go to the next sale, and I learn that I need to incorporate that in my next presentation. So you can always walk away with something, right? So I would take away that. So let them give you the negative feedback, right? Maybe they'll say, I didn't like you. I don't like the way you said this. You said this, you said that. It's just the way you came across. Well, I appreciate your honesty, and I'm sorry I couldn't help you. And here's my card. Just say goodbye. And now you need to fix that presentation for the next meeting, right? We learn, right? That's part of the process. But after 2 or 3 rejections like that, you'll figure it out really quick. Now let's go to the interested but not sure, right? So Chris says, you say Chris, Victor? No, Victor.
Let me think about it.
And I'll say, Chris, when somebody tells me, let me think about it, it's usually because they're not interested or they're interested but not sure. Which one is it?
I'm kind of interested, but I'm really not sure.
I said, that's fine, Chris. I get that from a lot of clients. And there's usually 3 reasons that my clients, by the way, I always confirm, I'm glad you're at least somewhat interested. And I know that when clients still have to think about it, it's usually one of 3 things. The first one is you don't see this offer as a fit for what you're trying to accomplish. Now, I'm just trying to make it fit for real estate. It doesn't fit. There's something in the offer that you don't like. Is that it? Now, you're going to say what?
Well, I mean, it's possible. I mean, I got to think about it.
Right, that's fine. So if it is a fit, there's nothing wrong with that offer. You like the percentage rates, you like this, you like that. Is there something? Now I go to feature. So the first one's always fit, feature, and then we'll talk about how we use it for real estate. The second is the feature. I said, is there something that's not included in our offer that you expected to be included? Is there something missing? Now notice I'm asking you, is there something missing? And I'm focusing you on, no, there's nothing missing. And then the third one might be finance. And I'll explain all 3 steps in just a bit. The first one is finance. Maybe you don't like the price that you're getting, the bottom line dollar. Is that it? And they're going to go, yeah, that's it. Now, let's walk through this slowly. Not interested, interested, but not sure. Not interested, we know what that is already. When somebody says, no, Victor, I'm interested, they've made a mental commitment. Small as it may be, Chris. It's a small move forward, right? But I need to think about it. Notice I said, well, I'm glad you're somewhat interested. And I also know that when people who are interested and still have to think about it, it's usually one of 3 things. And the first one is fit. So for example, when I'm selling technology products, you don't see this product as a fit. You don't see this computer as a fit for you, Chris, right? You say, no, I like the computer, Victor. It's a good computer. I say, okay, great. I'm not getting, well, maybe there are some features and functionalities in the computer that you're looking for. Maybe it's the webcam, the HD storage, processing. Is that it? You go, no.
Storage.
Right. And he'll tell you that, right? It may come out there. But then the third part, you go, well, and they go, no, the computer has the right speed, the right storage, the webcam is good, the HD, it's got 4K, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, Chris, if you like the computer, you like the platform, it's a Mac. 2, it has everything you need. Then I have to assume at this point, the only thing left is price. Is that it? Now, what's always interesting, it's usually going to be one of those 3. But notice I'm helping them. Remember I said that the goal of a salesperson is to what? Help them make a decision, clear the path for them, right? Help them make sense of it. And so what I'm doing is I'm helping them clear the path. Is it because it's not a fit? Is it because it's the feature or functionality? Or is it because of finance? Now, again, I don't know how you would tailor that for your business, but that's how I would treat it.
Right, because most people call that what? Boxing the objection?
I think you're just framing the objection. You know what the objections are. It's typically one of these 3. These are the big ones. It's either a fit, it's either the functionality, or it's either the finance. It's either one of those 3. It's in those 3 big categories. So if you know what your 3 big categories are, then I would go, I'm glad you're interested. But first, keep in mind that the big step forward was they didn't say not interested. They said, I'm interested. I just need to think about it, which is they didn't say no. They just say not right now. And then what you're going to do as a salesperson is come across very authentic and empathetic and say, I'm glad you're at least interested. And I also know that when people still have to think about, it's usually one of 3 things. And that's the phrasing you got to use. It's usually one of 3 things that you have to think about. And immediately the brain goes, well, what are they? And then boom. It's amazing. Try it. It works every time. And so you just chunk that and people go, eventually they have to give you something. Now, if it is a feature, and here's the 4th F. By the way, here's the 4th F. I always go with fit. Then I go feature or functionality. Take your pick. The third one is finance, right? The money. And if the person says, no, it's not the money, Victor, then the 4th F is there, and that is fear. And that means throughout the presentation, you did not reduce their fear. They don't trust you. You know what I mean? So if you go through that process and they don't close, it's because they simply do not trust you or they're scared. Now remember, this is sales in a nutshell, right? Do this all the time. There's anxiety and there's certainty. Our job is to reduce anxiety and increase certainty. And if you didn't do that throughout the process, they're going to say, no, I just need to think about it. It's not the money. It's not this. It's not that. Imagine somebody coming to your house, Chris, and just say, and you said, no, I said, no, it's the right computer. Does it have the functionality? Yeah, it has everything I want. Is it the price? No, I can afford it. Then what is it? It's, I'm afraid to buy from you, or I don't like you. You know, one of the things. So that's F is the fourth is fear.
Wow. So you gotta reduce that fear. So what are some ways you can reduce that fear to make that person feel like they can trust you eventually, I guess?
Great, super questions. Yeah, it's the quality of the questions, right? That's what I'm talking about, Chris. That's the quality of the questions, man. And so one of the big things that people look for is there's the empathy piece, right? We've covered that already. You got to be empathetic. In other words, you got to be mentally in the game with them. But the second part, I think is the most important part, is you got to educate them. Because some people simply don't know. And when I say educate, I'm not talking in a very pedantic mode, like, let me teach you, let me show you. I'm not talking about that. Maybe you highlight things for them that they didn't see. Maybe you point things out that they didn't know. Because a lot of people go, I knew that, I knew that, I knew that. That's why you have to know your product or your service better than the customer. Because when you can say something like this, hey, have you thought about the fact that if you decide to do this and you don't do that, this is the consequence. And the customer goes, no, I didn't know that. That's when you know you're pushing them mentally back on their heels, right? And that's what you know you're educating. And what you're doing is you're positioning yourself as an expert, right? As you're listening to me right now, your audience is listening to me right now. They're judging me. I know you're judging me. I know you're judging me, right?
They wouldn't judge too much.
No, that's who we are. It's nature, right? And so the first thing that you judged me on was my appearance. But you said, man, this guy, look at this badass setup, right? All right. And then two, you said, all right, Chris is asking some tough questions. Let's see how he answers them, right? And notice I'm answering the questions and I'm giving you examples. And maybe Daniel or somebody else is going, I think I kind of like this guy. He seems to know what he's talking about. He's not avoiding the questions. He's really going straight in at them. And that's what customers want, that direct conversation, which is why I'm answering questions, right? Notice I'm not saying, well, you know, Chris, that really depends on a lot of, and I look away from you, right?
Yeah, that sounds like you're hiding or something. Hands in the pockets.
Yeah. So people can sense that, right? I'm in the camera, man. I'm like, Chris, here's what you do, right? And if you say something, I'm listening to you, right? A couple of times I said this. No, you don't call them an enemy. No, we're not trying to what? What did you say? Close them? Something
Kill them. Take them down.
I go, no. I go, you don't do that, right? And so in my mind, I'm really listening to you, right? So we're having a dialogue. This is a real conversation. That's what customers want. But if you can empathize, this is my sales process. I said, if you can empathize with the client, understand where they're coming from, educate them, give them things they don't know, share with them like insight that people go, my definition of insight is information beyond the obvious, man. Write that down. Give them insight. That's information beyond the obvious, stuff they couldn't find on the website or on the internet. And you told them something, they go, didn't know that. Really? I like when people say this to me. You know, we had somebody come in to do our roofing, and I said, I'd like to do that. He goes, no, you don't. Here's why. And immediately I was like, what do you mean? No, I'm from Chicago. You get offended real quick, right? Puerto Rican, Chicago, we get offended really quick. Hair trigger, right? And so I'm like, what? You know, I'm like, what? But then he goes, let me explain why. And then when he explained, I go, oh, I didn't know that. Okay. And then he kept doing that, right? There are a couple of, he wasn't being rude. He's just like, I don't know. You might not want to do that, Victor. You might want to consider this. You might want to look at this option, because if you do this, then you're going to have to have you thought about that? I go, no, I have not thought about that. And that's when you know that you're really being that position. You're positioning yourself as an expert, and you're helping the customer understand what's going on. And that's where the trust comes in, Chris. That's where the trust comes in, man.
Right. So you want to nudge them along.
That's it. Never push. I always say, you what? You nudge. By the way, the third part of the process, I always say, then you empower them to make a decision. So you empathize, then you educate, and then you empower them. You give them options. Based on these three options, which one of these do you think you want to go with? Based on what we've discussed, is there any reason we shouldn't get started? Right? And again, if I know what my glide path is, I'm going to stick the landing because I already know my question. The next time you talk to other salespeople, ask them that question. What's your question? Come on. What's your stick the landing question? And watch them choke in front of you. Because if you don't have that thing programmed in your brain, like I should be able to like slap you out of a dead sleep, and I say, all right, give me the question. You're like, you know what I'm telling you? You should be able to wake out of sleep and just give it to me. If you can't do that, then it's hard for it to come out. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking to your audience. I know you know, Chris. You know how to do it. But your audience out there, you have the question right here, but you can't what? Push it out.
Get
You're
it out
afraid
there.
Did you know there was one study? It was a B2B study, but it was like some crazy number. Like 76% of salespeople never asked for the order.
Wow.
It was some crazy number like that. It was like CSO Insights or something. Like 76%. Even I was blown away by the number. The majority of people are scared to ask the question. They don't have a glide path. They don't have by the glide path, I mean, you know what you're going to say, and as you're saying it, you know where you're going. You know what? It's like that airplane that comes down into the runway. It knows what the path is, right? It's going to come in. It's going to arc. It's going to come in at a certain velocity, and then it's going to land softly and says, based on what I've shown you, is there any reason we shouldn't get started today?
Most definitely. And then wraps them up, and that should go from there.
Butter, man. Butter, baby. Butter.
So let me ask you this, Victor. So, I mean, I know you said to go into expert mode, but do you want to do that positioning on all sellers? Because, there are some on our buyers, I guess it would be, but on any sales prospect, because it's backwards for us, because we're talking to people who are selling a property to us most of the time. In the event there's a person like, I already know that it costs this much to do this, or I already know, these already know type sellers. How do you deal with those type of people? Can you be an expert with them?
Oh, yeah. No, I think on those, you want to let them win. You want to let them demonstrate their expertise. I said, look, man, apparently you've been in the business for at least 5 years. I said, you understand. And I'm so happy to be talking because usually I have to explain this. And the fact that you know all these things already makes my job that much easier because you already understand this. You understand that. You understand that. Good for you. My question to you is, what do you want to do now? Just turn it around. Remember, don't fight. Don't try to block the punch. If the guy's coming at you or the gal's coming at you and they're like wanting to take control, they want to dominate the conversation. Chris, let them dominate the conversation. All I have to do is ask them questions to nudge them left or right, and they're going to tell me, I've thought of that, Victor. Amazing. The fact that you've thought of that you've also probably thought of this as well. Is that true? He goes, absolutely, Victor. I've walked through this, this, and this, and this. I said, well, if you know this, you know this, you know this. I said, what's stopping you from making a decision to work with me today?
All right. So they know it all. It's time to sign this paperwork.
Gladly. I mean, okay. What's that phrase? Never sell beyond the sale, right? If it's there already, they know everything. They know what's going down. Victor, we just have to negotiate the fee right now. Well, let's negotiate the fee then. Let's work with this. And then that's it. So don't try to, if somebody, because I always say there's people who are very dominating in the conversation, right? We know these people. They want to dominate, let you know. Then there's people who are very analytical, right? Kind of very, okay, let me walk through the numbers. Can you help me walk through a number and make sense of these numbers? So there's dominating, want to talk, demonstrate what they know. Then there's the analytical. These are people who actually want to, run through the numbers. And then there's people who are, I use the word amiable. These are people that want you to listen to them. Right? Really have a conversation with them. So know who you're talking to. Am I talking to an amiable person? The person that wants to connect with me, to feel secure with me, right? Then there's the analytical person. Dude, just give me the numbers. Totally left brain individual, right? And then there's the dominator, right? These are people who just like to dominate a conversation, prove what they know. They don't need you to tell them that much. They just need you to expedite the process. How much
you gonna do? What's the price? They just want to jump to the price.
Let's do it. Yeah. And so when people always ask me, like, what's the price? I mean, again, you can always control the conversation. I've had people call me up and says, Victor, what's your price? I said, well, it depends. He says, no, I just want the price. I said, all right, I'll give you the price. That's $2,500 to $30,000. Based on what you need, let me give you a few options. They go, okay. Now they're willing to listen just because I give them a frame. So sometimes I just give people a frame and that makes them all happy. So when people call you up and they say, hey, what's the price for this service? I said, well, and I'll just say, well, it depends. And you can tell they get irritated when I say, well, it depends on what you need. Can I ask you a couple of questions? No, you can't ask me any questions. I just want to know what your service is. All right, good. So it's $2,500 to $30,000. That's the range. Now, if I could ask you a few questions, I can narrow it down specifically. And I also know what you're hoping for, that it's closer to 2,500 than it is to 30. Am I right? And they're going to go, yeah. Let me just ask you a couple of questions. See, I grab control of the conversation again.
Yeah. The questions that's where I found some of my students have come across people they've dealt with where they said sellers have went ghost. I mean, we don't really get that problem here that much, but it happens from time to time. Once we gave an offer and they don't like the number, they're out of there. They don't want to talk no more. It's like we've exposed our hand and they're done. I mean, how do we kind of overcome stuff like that?
So the thing is, you have to understand where they're at. One of the questions I always ask, so for example, again, one of the biggest industries I work with is like the pool industry or windows or roof, right? And these are people who always, like if you're a homeowner, you always want 2 or 3 proposals, right? Or, one of my coaching clients, I do coaching. So one of my coaching clients, he sells kitchen remodeling and bathroom remodeling, right? He has people who call in and says, well, how much is it to do my bathroom? I just want a price. Well, it depends, right? So one of the questions we've inserted, maybe you want to try this one, is how much research have you done? Great question, right? And they go, well, I've done a little bit. I said, by a little bit, you mean how much? I mean, do you understand, do you understand the process? Do you understand pricing? And then you keep asking them, right? And they're going to tell you what they know. If you just ask enough questions, I said, so basically, the fact that you've done some research on pricing, what is it that you're looking for? And I'll tell you if it's reasonable, it's within reach. Other than that, I'm not going to waste your time.
Right. So is there such thing as asking too many questions? Because I'm in the model of saying, I ask about
don't ask too many questions.
Generally, we usually ask about 50 questions. That's a lot, but we pretty much know their whole situation before we present them with something that we can do.
I think the more homework we know, this is basic, right? The more homework you can do before you get there, you pretty much know. If you've been in the game for a while, you know what questions are the key questions, right? I can sit down with any salesperson. I said, dude, give me your top 5 questions. If I asked you this, you said 50 questions, right? Let's go with 50 for now, Chris. Let's just use that as an example. And I said, Chris, you could only ask 5 questions out of those 50, and those 5 will give you a high probability of a close. What would be those 5 questions? Like, what are the 5, these questions I got to ask, because this will tell me everything I need to know. It's like my GPS. I can triangulate with these 5 data points, And so I always tell people, can you pick your top 5 questions? And those are the ones I would try to lead with, because it's almost like qualifying right away, right?
Right.
I mean, the thing is, what blows me away sometimes is that we don't feel like we need to qualify, or I should say disqualify. Right. In other words, I want to disqualify because I don't want to waste my time with you. I don't even want to do my presentation if you can't afford me. If you don't want to pay me, I don't want to play with you. You don't want to pay, I don't want to play. So I'm going to ask questions to determine whether or not you're in or not. So for example, go back to the kitchen remodeling guy and bathroom. Basically he set a floor. He said our minimum project is $5,000, right? And I know that's real because somebody did that to us a few years back. We called them up and they said, well, before we can even talk about the design and everything, I just want you to know that our minimum, designs are $5,000. Is that okay? And at first I was offended, well, I can afford $5,000. But then I understood what they were trying to do. They were trying to qualify me. Dude, if you don't have $5,000, let's not even waste our time. Now, my question back to your audience is, what questions would you ask to disqualify somebody right away? Let's say you're trying to get rid of somebody, not trying to get them in. You're trying to get rid of them.
Well, one of the things we let them know right up front is we don't pay retail for properties. We're investors. We're not going to pay top dollar retail for a property as an all cash deal. Yeah. We try to disqualify them right out the rip right there.
Absolutely. I said, what we're going to try to do is resell this property. And obviously we need to make money. Right? And so we're not going to do it for free. Are you okay with that? They're going to go, okay. So the only thing to really negotiate between us is how much. Am I right? Because the end goal is this. Am I right? Yes. All right. What are your expectations? Again, I'm making stuff up, but you get the idea. I would just go at them right away. And if they say, no, I want top dollar for my property, we're done, because you're not going to get it.
I'm probably not your guy.
I'm probably not your guy. I'm not your gal. I'm moving on, and just move on. So, we got to have disqualifying questions. I always have a minimum that I tell my customers. I said, when I did my keynotes years ago, my minimum was I wouldn't step on a plane for less than $7,500. Wouldn't do it. I'm not getting on a plane for less than $7,500. And they were like, what? I didn't tell them that, but that was my walkaway number.
Yeah.
That was my walkaway number. And I was
$1 less, not going.
Yeah, that's it. And so everybody has to have a walkaway number. And I think you should have that number in your head before you do anything. And I don't know how you would set it in your business, but find ways to disqualify people. And I know what people are thinking, but what if I only have 10 people in my pipeline? Well, again, they're not going to buy anyway. They're just going to waste your time. And you're going to go through all the efforts, all the machinations, and they're not your zebras. And the best way to find a zebra is to ask them the right question and disqualify them.
That's going to be true facts right there. Let me see. I got a couple of questions before we wrap this thing up. I don't want to keep you out too long here. You say you're down in, where are you on the East Coast?
No, Atlanta, Georgia, man.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you're an hour ahead. It's already 9:13 there. I was in Atlanta last week, as a matter of fact.
Love Atlanta. I love Atlanta. We're a little north place called Alpharetta. Really nice, man. I just love it.
Alpharetta. All right, right out there. So cool. So let me see here. I think Daniel had another question here. Victor, should we sound like a big business or a small business when talking to homeowners?
Small business. That would be my tendency, because the thing is, it's a great question though, Daniel, because I know what you're asking me, right? Because sometimes they'll look at you, say, well, you're just like a 1 or 2 man shop. I don't know if I want to buy from you. And so I always take the disadvantage, turn it into an advantage, right? I said, yeah, thank God. Again, remember, lean into the objection. Well, you're a small company. Absolutely. And let me tell you why that's an advantage. See, you're not just going to be a number. We're going to take care of your business. I'm not going to give you to somebody else who has no experience. You're going to work with me. I have 20 years of experience doing this. You get me. You don't get somebody else. You don't get my assistant. You don't get the secretary. You get me. So if you want to work with a big company, roll the dice there, go ahead, or something like that. But I mean, that's what I mean by lean into it. You're like,
now that's a good one there.
Let me know what you think, Daniel.
You're gonna definitely try it. I know I'm gonna try. I'll try all of this stuff. I have no fear, so I'll try almost anything.
Go in, man. Just go in, man.
I know that's right. Any other questions y'all have in here? Drop them in before we wrap this thing up. Let me see here. I saw another one in here a second ago. So, so tell us more about that the sales training you were telling us about a little bit ago, Victor. How does that work? Who is that for? Is that for beginning salespeople, for people with companies with multiple salespeople on teams? Who is that for, and how do they help?
So the Sales Velocity Academy is, I don't know if I can bring it up here. I think, yeah,
sure,
see, look at that. Boom. That right there, Sales Velocity Academy. So in the Sales Velocity Academy, it's like, again, 50 courses, over 500 videos. I add stuff every month, right? So new courses every month. And so I have foundational, advanced, and then mastery. So all 3 levels. So, and it doesn't matter if you're selling a product or service, whether you're B2B or B2C, doesn't matter. There's courses in there for you. And, the How to Sell is a great program. The Blocking Objections is a great program. How Clients Buy, big program. Also, how to prepare a presentation, how to lay out a presentation, and how to use storylines when you're talking to the customer one-on-one. Like, what questions do you ask? How do you guide the conversation? And then how do you get them to land where you want them to land? Stick the landing. And I think, as you go through the courses, just check it out. So you can do a monthly subscription. It's $30, $29.99, cancel anytime. I always tell people, I want you to go in there, grab what you need, and then get out. There's an annual, and then there's a lifetime membership. So just check out the website, salesvelocityacademy.com, and I think you'll enjoy it. Like I said, if you really want to up your sales game, and I'm going to repeat myself probably for the 3rd time, when you know how to sell, you'll always have a job. And here's the problem. The majority of people don't know how to sell. They know how to talk, but they don't know how to sell. They don't know how to persuade. They don't know how to influence. And that's what I will teach you. So if you like this content, you're going to love that right there.
salesvelocityacademy.com. That's the place to go to right there. I like to repeat it because we're going to be up on a podcast as well. So everything to come up visually, I always say it again.
There you go. Good man. salesvelocityacademy.com. Check it out.
That's right. Victor Antonio. All right. So let's see. Daniel did ask you another question. He said, how can we stand out to sellers? I guess people that want to sell their home.
I think let's go with the basics, right? Your marketing has to be good. Whatever materials you use, business cards and all that stuff, your collaterals has to be good. But at the end of the day, Daniel, I'm telling you, it is the questions you ask and the information you deliver. That's how you stand out. Because imagine they're seeing 3 people, right? And 2 come in before you and they do their thing, right? But then you come in and your approach is different. Now you're asking questions, but I'm talking about insightful, I didn't know that questions. And immediately they're thinking, well, these other 2 guys never asked that. That's what you're looking for. And it takes a while to get that type of information, get those questions, but that's what I would aim for. You can have the best brochure in the world, the prettiest PowerPoints in the world, but I'm telling you, it is your ability to ask those questions, to move them mentally in a conversation that, again, gets them to think, I didn't know that. Why didn't I think of that? I'm glad you mentioned that. And don't be afraid to take control of the conversation by saying, no, you don't want to do that. Here's why. You don't want to do that because, and believe it or not, challenging the customer just a little bit, just enough not to be a jerk, right? Because if you're coming from here and you're really trying to help, they'll feel that. They'll feel that you're not being a jerk or trying to really manipulate or push them or nudge them or pressure them. They're saying, he really cares. And I think when people can feel that, that to me is the ultimate differentiator. Like I said, everybody else has the nice websites, has the nice brochures, has a nice business card, pulled up in a nice car, has probably a nice suit. But it's your ability to do that and speak to them that they get it. Remember, empathize, educate, and then empower them to make that decision.
Wow, that's exactly what we want to do. I know that's right. Now, here's a question in regards to something I like. Referrals. How do we go about getting referrals and testimonials, things like that, to help build our business?
So, by the way, in the Sales Velocity Academy, there's also a program of referrals, but I'll give you one big tip, and I think this is an important one. You have to first produce the act, right? So we could just say that we have to, close that out, and they're happy with our services, right? They're like, love you guys, thank you. You really helped me through this, thank you. So we got to get to that point. Then you may do, I like what insurance people do. Insurance people are clever because even though they have policies a little different than real estate, is that they do once a year, they do a check-in to go through your policy to make sure everything's still the same and nothing has changed. Kind of a pit stop check, right? The pool industry does it as well. Once a year on your anniversary when you put the pool in, they like to set up a meeting with you just to make sure that you're happy with it. And when they're there, they're going to mention, well, they kind of might want to think about that and do the upselling. But so one is to use like a date to come back, right? To meet with them. It could be 3 months after. So you close the deal. A month later, how are you guys doing? Just wanted to follow up. And then don't say, by the way, do you know anybody who might need my service? Horrible question, right? Do you know anybody who might need this? They go, like, okay, no, not really. No, but if you say something like this, Chris, I said, do you know anybody who's trying to da-da-da with their house, who has maybe some equity in the house, who's been struggling to try to get that and is looking for a way to da-da-da? Is there anybody in your family that might be looking for somebody, or do you know of a friend? Now, what I did was, instead of asking you, do you know anybody, I gave you what?
A scenario.
Specifics, right? Hey, do you know anybody that looks like this, zebra, that does that, that does that, that does that? The pool people will use it the same. By the way, when they get referrals, by the way, do you know anybody who's in your situation? Just moved in, been in the neighborhood 1 or 2 years, has a big backyard, no pool, has a couple of kids, and might be interested in buying a pool within this neighborhood. They go, well, there's a neighbor down the street who has 2 kids. They might be interested. Boom. I just focused you in, and I'm just trying to get one. You know what I mean? That's how I would do it.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good way as far as referrals. What about, is it powerful to have testimonials from other people saying, yeah, you did good and all that? Because I know we use it for a lot of our deals, and people come in and they really went with us just because of that. I mean, do you know some good ways to do that to make it so that people can actually want to say good things on your behalf?
I think the testimonials, do you show, are they written or video?
They're video. I'll take a video right on the spot. Hey, yeah, this is Mr. Johnson. We just helped him out. Yada, yada, yada. How do you think everything went? They say, yeah, it went great. And they say, yeah, nothing really deep.
Right.
But
what I would do is, if I was in this business, is that I would literally pull somebody off to the side. I don't care if I have to hire a camera guy, right? It's only going to cost me $200-300. And I would say, and if the customer's happy, what I would do is, I swear to you, I would interview the person for a good 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Here's why. Because as I'm interviewing, there's testimonials that are just not believable. I work with Chris, and Chris is great, and he was everything he said was great, and so yeah, I think you should work with me. No, these people are in pain that are listening. Now you're doing an interview, and you ask questions, you get the basic out of the way. How'd you like our service? They go, no, Chris, we love working with you. I said, well, let's just have a conversation, you and I. I said, when you first met me, what were some of your hesitations at the beginning? And they're going to say, these are my hesitations. I said, what was the scariest part of the process for you? And then she goes, say, well, this was scary. And then you could just kind of nudge a little bit. I said, how did we help you there? How did we help you overcome that? Well, when you guys did this for me and then showed me this, that really allowed me to do that. And that made me feel better, right? So now imagine having that 20, 30-minute conversation. You chop that baby up into 1 to 2 minutes. But I mean, you get that. You get this. You know what I mean? You don't get the, yes, he's great. We love him. Cool dude. Awesome. You should use him. To me, those aren't powerful. But man, you get one like that, and you go up on a website. You know what Fiverr is, right?
Yeah, I use them all the time. I got like 6 people on there working right now.
Thank you. So you get somebody on Fiverr to say, look, here's what I want you to do. I said, here's the clips I want. Put some nice music in the background, and then use that as a testimonial. Now imagine sending that out specifically to your zebras, right? You're sending it out. So by the way, last week, worked with a lady. You don't have to give the name. And by the way, you can tell them you don't want to use the name. You're not going to use the name. And then so forth, so on. He says, I just want you to watch this video because it was very heartwarming, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. People are like, oh yeah, let me see it. And then people are like, oh, it's not pitching because she's telling a story. And what you did, Chris, you helped them. Do you know what I mean? That's what people are going to remember. It's like, oh, this dude's awesome. Like, he helped her. I know somebody just like that. Because then you could say, if you know anybody who's in this situation, now imagine at the end of that video, you come up and say, I said, if you know anybody who's in this situation who really needs help and needs to trust somebody to work with, have them give us a call. Here's my number. That's all you say. Dude,
that's good right there. So go ahead and make it a 20, 30-minute interview, then chop it up. Because I only do like 2 or 3 minute, question.
Yeah, you don't get the good stuff, man. You don't get the good stuff. That's why you hire a camera guy, because the thing is, if you get 1 or 2 of those, that's all you'll need. Yeah. You don't have to record any on the spot deals anymore. You just got your 2 or 3 or whatever 2, and then that's it. That's all you'll need. If you get that, but what I've learned is that initially people are like their adrenaline's running to give you the content you want to hear, right? And then after like 5 or 10 minutes, like they settle into this steady state of conversation. And then if you can just get them to forget the camera, you can just even tell the camera guy, can you just turn the camera off? That's one of my strategies. Just turn the camera off, and he's going to keep it running. Just say, dude, whatever you do, don't turn it off, right? And just keep it running. And then the person feels comfortable. And then, and then Chris can say, by the way, and he can whisper in your ear, by the way, he did record that. Is that okay? And then, you tell the person, I'm going to send you what we're going to put together. And if you okay it, we'll send it out. If not, that's fine. You get, full right to reject it. But I mean, these are things you can do, but those are the type of videos you want. I've seen too many of the hype videos. I get sick of the hype videos. Like, yeah, today and only today, you can work with us. You'll make a deal. You'll save money. You'll get out of debt. Come on.
But wait, right now, we'll double your order.
That's it.
That's the one.
That's
all right.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you with. So great. I think I have one. Let's see here. Victor, do you see anything coming from the pandemic of the coronavirus?
Do I see anything coming from it? I'd say, that's a big question, Daniel, but I'll tell you what is coming. I think right now you're going to begin to see the impact. The financial impact is coming now, I think, because, the $600 checks have stopped for a lot of states, and some are just getting $300 now, right? And the economy is getting better. But I think what we haven't seen is that people have been living off their credit card debts, right? And been using side money, emptying out their accounts. And so, I think September, October, you're going to start seeing some cracks in that, right? So that's why I'm hoping that, we can find a way to get this economy going again, because we were doing so well. And so I think that's one of the things I see, Daniel. You're going to start seeing some of that happen, unfortunately. The other thing from a sales standpoint that I look at is that we're not going to go back to the normal how we used to do things all the time. I think people have adjusted. People virtual, this right here, video to video, in this case, audio maybe, but video to video is now a new reality that we're going to be using. It's not going to go away. So it's not like something like, okay, pandemic's done. Let's travel to the location. One study showed that 40% of the jobs, 40% of the jobs are not coming back. And to some extent, I believe that. And I'll give you two examples. The one example is like what CarMax is doing. CarMax is now selling more cars per salesperson with less salespeople, because what they've done is they made their website the showroom, and now the dealership is where you actually go pick up or drop off the car, whatever it is you're doing. And so all of a sudden, they don't need as many salespeople anymore. And a lot of car companies, a lot of dealerships are functioning this way. If you look at the pool industry, like swimming pools, I mean, they got so much business coming their way that if today you decide to get a pool, you're not going to get one until the first quarter, maybe second quarter of next year. And so my point is that the dynamics of the business have changed so much, how business is structured, that a lot of companies have restructured. They're getting rid of people. Look at all these stores, probably in your area, just like mine. If you go to the strip malls, a lot of these jobs are gone. They're gone. You know what I mean? They're not coming back. And so that is part of the new reality. And so it'll be interesting to see. I'll give you a visual. You ever see those globes where you shake them up and the snow floats around? Well, I think the snow is still floating around, but it's now starting to settle slowly. And that to me represents the economy. And we're going to see what jobs are available and what jobs are not. And I think that's going to be interesting. But I think on the financial side, the personal finance side, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of cracks, and that's interesting. But on the flip side, you got people who are buying houses like crazy because they want to now, instead of going on vacation, they're sticking all the money in their house, which is why pool sales are up. If you want to get anything done to your house, in some areas it's just difficult. Like in this area, it's hard to get anything done because everybody's investing their money in their house. So that might be a resurgence, in house sales, depending on how the economy is in your location. So I don't know if that was a real answer, but my point being is that we're not going to go back to how it used to be. It's changed. So it can't. Once you see it, that's it. You can't unsee it. So that's happened. Number two, it'll be interesting to see what September and October bring. And that's what I'm hoping, we need to get past this election, because I think it isn't until we get past the election that we kind of understand, okay, what are we going to do? Where are we going? And so we'll see what happens over the next 2-3 months. Shaky time.
Yes, we got to wait for the election, for the selection. So, exactly. I would agree with what you said about the car sales part, because I just bought a car from Carvana, and then I went and bought some stock in it, and it went up like 35% already. I'm like, man, I didn't know they were making money like that on this thing. I mean, the stock is up. They're making more sales.
Think about it. You bought a car using an app.
They brought it to me. I didn't even have to do anything.
I mean, that right there is like a paradigm shift. I mean, would you have thought that 5 years ago that you would have done that?
And they said I could have did the whole deal touchless. I didn't even have to really meet the guy. They said they could have just left it and left the keys. I never had to see anybody. Just take the car.
Auto Trader has an application where you can actually feed them all the data. Like it has an app. You say, here's my car. Here's the car I'm trading in. Here's the mileage. Here's this. Here's that. Here's that. Here's the type of financing I want. Here's my monthly payment, what I want. And you give them your credit score, and they'll kick back. And before you get to the car dealership, this is all done. So when you get there, if you're just going there to pick it up at this point, but you can do that now. I mean, so think about that. There's people in financing now who are not going to be needed within that car dealership anymore. And again, they're selling more cars with less salespeople. So I'm telling you, we're going through, there was a guy, the Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter said, he talked about creative destruction. Creative destruction is when you insert a new technology in the market, like the iPhone, and then you totally disrupt the whole market, that it takes a while for it to settle back, but it becomes more efficient. That was the key of creative destruction, that you disrupt it, but then it becomes more efficient. Like you break it, but it comes together more efficient. This pandemic is creative destruction in the sense that it's broken the system, and it's going to come back, and it's going to be more efficient than ever, I think, personally.
Yeah, this pandemic hurt some people, but it definitely helped some people as well. A lot of people don't talk about that, though. You don't hear that.
Yeah, it's hard to see how it all shakes out. It'll be interesting 5-10 years from now when we look back at this and just analyze what happened. It'll be interesting.
Most definitely, because even during this pandemic, I started a new company, WokeSkipTracing.com. Get skip tracing for as low as 15 cents per match. So that's what I started that during the pandemic. You're not supposed to do anything new during a pandemic. You're supposed to retract and be afraid. Not me.
No, by the way, and I should have mentioned this. So, 80% of my business was speaking, live events, all gone.
Wow.
80% of my revenue, easy, if not more, right? But I knew when they shut down the third week, I think it was the 20th of March here in Georgia, I knew. And I told my wife, we're making this shift. This whole studio, this is all new.
You built it out of thin air. You created it.
Yeah, because of the pandemic. And so all of a sudden I started doing webinars more. Now I do more virtual sales training, invested more in the Sales Velocity Academy, put more content, just really pushing that. And I think in a year from now, maybe less than a year now, maybe 9 months, I'll probably be at my same revenue level virtually. So
Wow.
Embrace technology, pivot where necessary, man. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. All right, cool. Anything else you want to share with the family before we get up out of here and do some more woke stuff?
No, man. Just remember, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care.
That's right. Appreciate you for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. See you, man.
All right. That's how we do it, family. Each and every Monday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, give it a like, give it a share. I know in the beginning there was some audio issue, but hopefully that all came out clear for everybody that was coming in. I did want to let you know we do have a great show planned for you next week, next Monday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern on the 7th, Labor Day, I believe that is. That's going to be on with my bro, Mr. Chris Haskins, making it happen. How to get that government money with Section 8. You know, a lot of people run away from rentals and things like that, but Section 8 is still pumping good. Even with the planned gimmick or the pandemic, things are going on and the money's still flowing. So you definitely want to learn the basics and the strategy from him. That's going to be next Monday night. That's September 7th. The following week, we'll be on with Mr. Alvin Tucker, the Facebook marketing strategist. September 14th, we're going to talk about Facebook marketing, getting those deals so you can bring in and keep that pipeline full so that you can close more deals, talk to more people, and make more money. That's what we want to do right there. Coming up at the end of the month here, we're going to be on with Miss Ayla Melendez out of San Antonio, Texas. That's Monday, September the 28th, 7 o'clock Central Time. We'll be on with her, learning the basics of dispositions. We're going to be on with her. That's going to be a great show, so make sure you're tuned in for that. And for the one we just completed here tonight, that was Mr. Victor Antonio. Follow him on Instagram at Victor Antonio, and check out his website for all of the other sales training, master sales training as well, for as low as $30 a month. I might have to go check that out myself, especially if it's for other people to get on and train staff and things like that. Because, you know, you can do all this stuff yourself, but how great are you if it's only you doing everything? How many other people have you helped? That's what we want to do. Also, don't forget, if you want to be notified of these upcoming live streams, just text JV to 31996. That'll get you the joint venture agreement. That'll get you the free joint venture agreement where you can work with other wholesalers, real estate agents, and other real estate investors, and get you on the notification squad. Just text the keyword JV to 31996. That's all you have to do there. Join that free Facebook group as well. Woke Real Estate Investors on Facebook, talking about subject to, talking about lease options, talking about seller financing, and so much more. Hop on over there and check it out. Get around like-minded people. Come on and request to join. And if you're watching in the Woke Real Estate Investing group, invite others. Invite some other woke folk that want to learn this real estate stuff. So that's what we do right there. Congregate across the nation. All right. And also, these podcasts are streamed also. Woke Real Estate Podcast. Listen to it on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and the others. All your podcasting sites. Just search for the Woke Real Estate Podcast and give us a 5-star rating. That would be great of you as well. We appreciate that. All right. Let me see what we got here. They say thank you for that. No problem. Laura, double L in the building. I see you. Let's see here. Thank you, Chris and Victor, for this quality information. Now, Bobby Blue, I want you to go implement some of the stuff he talked about in this video, talking about the fit, features, finance, fear, and all the other stuff. Go back, watch this replay, listen to it again, take copious notes, and take massive imperfect actions. Daniel says, Chris Haskins. Oh, yeah, that's right. You know it. And yes, Bobby Blue, we bring in heavy hitters each and every Monday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you're tuned in each and every week. And this show was brought to you by WokeSkipTracing.com. Get numbers and email addresses for these people you're looking for to try to buy their house or do a deal with, as low as only 15 cents per match. Not per search, but per match. That's at WokeSkipTracing.com. Love what you're doing, Chris. All right, I appreciate it. Clovis, I see you. The fire flames. And don't forget to smash that thumbs up. Thank you, Sunshine. Did a great job in here as well, helping us out show is full of gems. So I'm going to have some good things to chop up out of this to get some segments out of it as well. So I know that's going to come out just right as well. So, yep, support this show the way you support. Giving it a thumbs up, first of all. Sharing it to somebody else, second of all. And if you really love it, go support our site, wholesalesrealestate.com, where you can get contracts, cool gear like this hat, or coaching. So for the contracts, you can get any type of paperwork you need for us, wholesaling, virtual wholesaling, subject to wraparound mortgages, lease options, all of that type of stuff. The paperwork to make that paperwork is at wokerealestates.com. Check that out for sure. And if you're looking for nice hats and things like this, different shirts or gear, stuff like that, some nice threads, go ahead and check it out. wokerealestate.com/shop. wokerealestate.com/shop. That's how we do it. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you as well. So I appreciate you all. And I will see you on the next one. So with all that being said, don't forget to follow me on all social media outlets at Chris Monroe STL. That's Snapchat, that's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's Facebook, that's YouTube, that's TikTok, all of them, you name it. People say, I can't find you, man. I can't find you. Chris Monroe STL on all social media outlets. And if you're looking for somebody to partner with, or you really got deals you're really working with in the St. Louis area, shoot me an email. Chris@wokerealestate.com. Looking to buy some property. Looking to buy. And looking to do deals in JVs as well if it's in the St. Louis area. I'll look at other areas as well, but mostly in this area. Chris@wokerealestate.com. That's my email. Hit me up. Business inquiries if you want that there. So do what you do. Be who you be. And I'll see you before you see me. Peace.
And we have Mr. I Stay Woke. And Mr. I Stay.
Today's broadcast is being brought to you by WokeSkipTracing.com. Look up phone numbers and email addresses with ease, with pricing as low as only 15 cents per match. Not per search, per match. If there's no number or email address, you don't pay. Get accurate data in just minutes. WokeSkipTracing.com. That's WokeSkipTracing.com.